Hey everybody, it's Amy Berger here. Thank you so much for participating in this virtual conference. Really glad to have you here and very honored to have been invited to present. So I think that my talk is going to be a little bit different than most of the keto talks you're used to seeing, especially if you've been to a lot of these events before, whether virtually or in person. It's just kind of a different slant on things. You're not going to see any scientific references. You're not going to see any footnotes. This is a different type of talk. So keto is easy for everyone else. Why am I having a hard time? I'm going to start off with a little story. I'll share a story with you. And I did give a version of this talk a few years ago at an event, but if you saw that version of the talk, hang on. The ending is different this time, I promise. So, the little story. I have been a professional nutritionist for about 8 years now, and I've worked with a lot of people. And I want to share with you the story of one of my clients named Pia. And I worked with Pia for a long time. I got to know her very well. And I do have her permission to share this story. So here is what happened to Pia. Pia was the keto girl, the keto poster girl. She would go out to dinner with friends and she would always get the bunless burger and the grilled asparagus or, the roasted fish with the grilled zucchini. She was that person. She never wanted the dessert, was never even tempted, no problem, lost a bunch of weight, had no health problems. And that was all great, except that Pia had a very, very big secret. There was a particular food that Pia was very, very addicted to. And it was a keto food in the sense that it was a food that is low in carbs and high in fat. So it wasn't that it was a sugary food or a very starchy food. It was a food that most of us would consider perfectly fine for a low carb or ketogenic diet. The thing is, though, Pia was so addicted to it that the quantities she would consume this in were really, really out of control. She would binge on this food every single night without exception, every night in mass quantities. So even though she might be out to dinner with friends and having a great time, not feeling like anything was wrong, and she'd be conversing, half of her mind was kind of looking at her watch like, oh, how soon can I get out of here and go home and binge on that food? And she had tried to stop binging on this food. She had kind of mastered everything else about keto. It was just this one thing. But this one thing was so bad. It really had such a hold on her. It was so demoralizing for her to have such a lack of control that it really kind of overshadowed everything else, all the other accomplishments, not just with keto and diet, but in the whole rest of her life. She felt like a failure. She felt like she hadn't accomplished anything meaningful because there was this huge just thing, this big weight on her shoulders. And she had tried so many times to break herself of this food. She even told friends, she had some very trusted friends, that she said, listen, I've got this problem. Could I check in with you every couple of nights? Could I let you know how it's going? I really need some kind of accountability. But if that really didn't work so well because they were her friends, like they weren't going to divorce her as a friend if she kept eating this thing. So nothing really worked until one day she was just done. She was just done. She just didn't buy the food anymore after years of buying this food and binging on it and running out and going to buy more and replacing it. One day it was just over. After having deliberately tried to stop and failing. So we still to this day don't know what it was that got Pia to stop this thing. But really, the main point is just to start off with a story that says, even when someone looks like they've got it all figured out and everything looks perfect on the outside, there might be something very, very difficult going on. And even if it's not affecting their weight, so you can't tell that they have a problem from the outside, the internal emotional and psychological damage and burden of that kind of destructive behavior is really, I don't know that I would say it's equal to a physical problem, but in many cases it is. But we got to move on from this story. Let me spoil the surprise ending for you right here. There is no Pia. There's no fictional client named Pia. I was talking about Amy Berger. So if you think that the keto, I don't like to use the word expert with regard to myself, but if influencer is even worse, the keto knowledgeable people, the keto authorities, whatever, the people that you may look to for advice and information, we don't have it all mastered. We don't have it all figured out. Maybe some other people do. I sure don't. And so if you thought you were the only one who still has a hard time with this stuff, let me burst that bubble right here. You are not the only one. So let's talk about this all. Keto is simple, right? It's simple. So why is it so hard sometimes? Keto has one rule basically, right? Don't eat sugar or starch. If you do that, guess what? You're on a ketogenic diet. Everything else is secondary, right? Just cut the carbs. That is literally what makes a diet ketogenic, is that your carbohydrate intake is low enough that your body shifts to burning mostly fat, and it produces those ketones as a result of that. So rule one of keto, don't eat sugar or starch. I hope you're chuckling. This is virtual, so I can't see anybody's reaction, but it's really true. Rules 2 through 99, every single other thing about this that you've heard is secondary to the single most important thing, which is just keeping the carbs really low. The omega-6 in your fats and oils, fasting, autophagy, your protein ratio, eating windows, this and that. All of it is secondary to doing the most important, most critical thing, which is keeping your carb intake low. So we know this. Like, did I just tell you something you don't know? Like, you don't know that keto is a very low carb diet? Was that a shock to you? Like, I hope not. So we know what to do. We know this. Why aren't we doing it? Why is it so hard to do? We have all the information we need. There is no lack of books and blogs and YouTube videos and Instagram accounts and all this stuff. We have enough information. Why aren't we putting it into practice? I'll tell you why. It's because just because keto is simple doesn't mean it's easy. These words are not synonyms. I'll tell you something else that's simple but is not easy. Finishing a marathon. And I know it's simple but not easy because I did it twice. And in a former life, and 2 marathons was 1 marathon too many. I'm not a runner. Running a marathon is really simple. It's simple. All you have to do is put one foot in front of the other. If you're in a wheelchair, you just wheel yourself. If you do that for 26.2 miles, guess what? You have completed a marathon. It's really simple. It's not easy, right? Those are very different words. Now, have you heard that if you go on a ketogenic diet, hunger disappears? You're just never, ever, ever hungry. You could go months and months without eating ever because of this magical keto disappearing hunger. Have you heard that? Sugar cravings disappear. Once, you got to get over the hump, but once your body adjusts to keto, you never, ever, ever crave anything sweet. Never. You've heard that, right? Energy soars. You're bursting with energy. You wish there were 28 hours in the day, because if you had 4 extra hours, you could hustle even more. You'd be even more productive. You could get so much done because you have just this boundless energy on keto, right? Your palate changes. You no longer even like the taste of sweet. Somebody could give you a cupcake and oh, that's too sweet. Oh, I can't. I've personally never uttered that phrase. Or people with a cheesecake or a really, really decadent chocolate dessert, we call them normies. Normal people will take one bite and say, oh, that's too rich. I can't finish that. That's too rich? I don't think that phrase has ever come out of my mouth except now, and I'm being sarcastic. So your palate changes? Okay. Mood and mental outlook are great. Who's heard that on keto, you're just a ray of sunshine? You never feel down, you never feel worried, you never feel dark and gloomy, you're just always happy. Food turns into fuel and nothing else, right? You no longer live to eat, you just eat to live. Your body is a temple and only the finest fuel enters your temple because, food is no longer entertainment and cultural enrichment and human fellowship. It's just fuel, right? You've heard that? And if these magical things haven't happened to you, someone's told you you're doing it wrong. Have you heard that anywhere, maybe? Have you ever asked yourself the following questions? Why can't I just get control over my food? Why can't I just, dot, dot, dot? Why is it so easy for everyone else? Everyone else has this figured out. They're posting their pictures, their clothes are falling off them, the food looks amazing. Why? I'm not any stupider than all these other people. Why can't I figure this out? When is keto going to sprinkle that magic pixie dust on me? When do I get to feel the keto magic that everyone else is talking about? Why is it so hard? I'm not a lazy person. I'm not a stupid person. I'm a good spouse. I'm a good employee. I'm a hard worker. I'm a good parent. I'm a good community member. Like, I'm disciplined in other areas of my life. What is it about this food thing that I just can't get a hold of? Everyone else has this all figured out. What is the holdup? Like, why do I have all these other areas of my life put into place and going well, and this food thing is such a mess? Why do I keep sabotaging myself? There's a company that I followed for many years, and it's kind of a food and nutrition company, and the president of the company has a corollary that basically says if you're in the supermarket and something ends up in your cart or your basket, you will eat it. If you are putting it into your cart, you will eat it. Don't think that it's not going to get eaten if you bring it home. Don't think, oh, well, this time will be different. I'll bring it home. Maybe I won't have it right away. It's the tortilla chips. Maybe I'll just have like 2 chips this time and I'll put the bit. Has it ever been different? Ever? In the time before, and the time before that, and the time before that. Spoiler alert, it's never different. But we all do this. Why do we sabotage ourselves? You know it's not going to be different, and yet you put that thing in your cart anyway, and you get home and it gets eaten. You might even eat it in the car on the way home. Why do we do this to ourselves? We're smarter than this. When am I going to get my act together? What's wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Why can't I just figure this out? Now, even after going keto, right? Because we engage in a lot of, I won't say bad, I'll say problematic and self-destructive behaviors with food and eating. But for many people, not all, many people, when they go on a low carb or ketogenic diet, a lot of those behaviors kind of fade away. When the brain and the body sort of switch over to fueling primarily on fats and ketones rather than being on that crazy sugar roller coaster all day, a lot of those behaviors just disappear without us even deliberately trying to stop them. But if that hasn't happened for you, even after going keto, have you ever eaten when you weren't actually hungry? Have you ever eaten for any of the following reasons? Because you were lonely, or tired, or bored, angry, stressed out, feeling anxious, sad, mourning, grieving? How about procrastinating? Yours truly is a Olympic gold medal winning procrastinator. I cannot even begin to speculate on the thousands and thousands of calories I've consumed via procrastination. I can't write that blog post. It's lunchtime. I can't record that video. It's time for dinner. I can't work on that book chapter. I have to wash the dishes from dinner. I can't I am Nobody has me beat on procrastination and eating while I do so. Have you ever eaten food out of the garbage? And I am not laughing. I'm not smiling. This is dead serious. Have you ever eaten food out of the garbage? I have. Because you can't just put it like let's say you're eating something that is you probably shouldn't be eating. You finally come to yourself. Oh, okay. I'm not gonna finish it. I'm gonna close the bag. I'm gonna put it in the trash. I'm gonna seal the thing up, put it in the garbage. The problem is you just put it right on top, right? It's not even touching anything else. You can totally go back, to it. And we've all done it. Or if you haven't done it, congratulations, but many of us have. And you can't do that. If you're going to get rid of the food, you have to either get it physically out of your home, out of your physical reach, or you can do what my friend does. And yes, this is a friend. That's not a euphemism. Oh, my friend. Everything I've told you already about myself, I'm not lying to you now. I have a friend who, when she is in this situation, she will put the food in the trash and spray Windex on it, like spray some kind of poisonous thing on it that for sure you're not going to go back to that food. Another strategy, you could put it in the trash, but you got to mash it up with the cat litter and like the 3-day-old newspapers. Don't make it easy to eat it again. Have you ever eaten food that was a little bit frozen, burned, or spoiled? Me. I've done all 3 of these, even after going keto. Frozen food. Have you ever, whether after keto or before, you have that frozen Pepperidge Farm cake in the freezer just in case company drops by unexpectedly? Like you should have something on hand just in case. I do not believe in out of sight, out of mind. If you are a food addict, if you are a compulsive eater, you know exactly where that food is and you know exactly how much of it is left. It is not out of sight and it is not out of mind. And with that frozen cake, have you ever taken a fork and kind of chipped away at it like you're excavating an archaeological site, chipping away? Yeah, I have. Frozen doesn't put me off. I like burned food. I like the burnt potato chips. I like burnt toast. I like my bacon on the really crispy side, bordering on burn. So burned food doesn't put me off. Spoiled, if it passes the sniff test, it's all good, right? We've done it. Have you ever driven to a store to purchase a food that you were craving? There are some people who will say, if you have a problem with food or with a certain food, don't keep it in your house because you're not going to drive to the store at 11:30 at night to get it. Like, make it difficult for yourself to get it. Okay. Again, normies, most people will not get in their car at midnight and drive to the store. We live in a society where we are blessed. It's a blessing and a curse to have convenience stores and supermarkets open 24 hours a day. So you can get in your car at midnight and go to the store and get anything you want. Most people will not, but some people will. So if you've ever done any of these things, and if you've ever asked yourself any of those questions that were on the previous slide, you are not alone. And I hope this isn't the first time some of you are hearing this, but if it is, and if you need to hear this, if this is something you need to hear and no one else has ever told you, I'm just going to repeat it over and over because you need to really understand that you are not alone in these issues. The keto magical fairy dust works for some people, and for some people it works a certain amount and then it doesn't go all the way. Some of us still struggle despite knowing all the stuff, right? And knowing, all the right things to do, we still have problems. So here are some tips that the conventional wisdom, so to speak, the conventional advice would have us do in these difficult situations where we want to eat foods that we know are not appropriate for us, or eat quantities that are not appropriate, that kind of thing. Just wait 15 minutes. If you wait 15 minutes, that craving will pass, right? There's no chance that you'll just spend that entire 15 minutes thinking about that food, right? Waiting for those 15 minutes to be up. Go for a walk. Now, to be clear, before I forget, everything on this slide works for somebody. I'm not saying these don't work or that they never work for anybody. They do, but they also don't work for a lot of people. Brush your teeth. You're not going to want to dirty a nice clean mouth with a cookie. I don't know about that one. Drink water, because I can't have that cake. I'm so full from all this water. You can trick your stomach and your brain with water for about 10 minutes. And then once that water is kind of, I don't know how much that water is going to help for the next 3 hours. Read a book, call a friend, pray, do something to distract yourself. Again, I'm not saying that this advice is useless. It does work for some people, but for some of us, it just comes from fantasy land. This is fairy tale, fantasy land, fictional advice. So this is fairyland wonder advice for me. It's not super effective. Okay, what is effective then? Like, Amy, oh my gosh, like this is so. What am I going to do about this? Like you've just said, it's hard, and not everyone. It doesn't. We all have these problems. Like, am I doomed to be in this pattern forever? Can I ever get out of these habits? Can I ever get on a more productive path? Yes, yes, you can. So here are some potentially helpful tools and strategies. And I purposely put the word potential there, or potentially, because different things work for different people. These are potentially helpful for you. Maybe they're not helpful at all, but know that there is help. You might have to try a lot of different things before you find something that's going to work, but don't give up. Like I was saying with that previous slide, going for a walk, brushing your teeth, drinking water, those do work for some people. If they don't work for you, we've got to find something else. So I'm going to blow through this slide really quick. I just wanted to put this here because I didn't want to ignore these. These are, suggestions that work not just for food, but really for any habit change or any addiction, except that, the last one is really more food specific. But this is just some very basic, obvious sort of stuff to start with, support groups. And there's so many, because of the popularity of keto the last few years, there are so many forums, whether it's like a private online subscription model, or it could be a Facebook group, it could be a Reddit forum. There's so much out there. Events like this, come to these events every few weeks or months. There's so many of them popping up now. If you are a person of faith, you can maybe get religious guidance. There's 12-step programs, all positive affirmations, and then of course changing the language that you use about food. Oh, I can't have that. I can't. Instead of I don't eat that anymore. I choose not to have that right now. If these work for you, they work. But let's move on and spend a little more time talking about things that are more specific to ketogenic and low carb diets. So my motto, most of you, well, some of you, not most, some of you may know, my motto is keto without the crazy. Stop overcomplicating it. Stop making it so crazy, right? When you are new to keto, especially if you're new recently, the last couple of years, you've got the apps and the spreadsheets and the trackers and the gizmos and the meters and the this and the that. And like, before you even go buy any food, you've turned yourself into a cyborg, right? You've got all these wearable technologies and you're tracking your steps and your heart rate and your ketones. But it's very, why not make this as simple to stick to as possible? Why make it more complicated than it needs to be? Now, if you are somebody that loves that information, some people do. If you're a data lover and you love to see the numbers and you want to track, you can do it. None of that is required to be successful with this way of eating. And when I say be successful, it's whatever your definition of success would be. It could be losing body fat. It could be reversing type 2 diabetes, reversing PCOS, non-alcoholic fatty liver, clearing up your skin, managing migraines. There's some very interesting research being done with mental health, but you don't have to track all this stuff to get most of those results. So I did say that simple is not the same as easy, but I do think for many people, with regard to keto specifically, when you keep things simple, it becomes easier. If you can just buy food and eat your food, and you don't have to open up an app and a spreadsheet every time you eat your meals, and you don't have to bust out your food scale every time you're at the store, maybe that would make it a little bit easier to stick to. Like simplifying it can make it easier. So you know where that level of complication, that level of gadgetry and technology, you know where we need that? We need that in the cockpit of a fighter jet. We don't need that with the food that we eat, right? We don't need that at the supermarket. We don't need it at the dinner table. And again, I do recognize there are people that really enjoy all that technology. And so I'm not telling you not to do it. If you love that, do it as much as you want. If you don't like that and it's making you anxious and it's making you antsy and worried, then abandon ship, abandon plane, just worry about the food for now. So remember, keto is supposed to make your life better. It's supposed to make your life easier and less crazy, and it's supposed to improve your health and make all of this stuff just it's supposed to help drown out the noise, not make it more noisy, not make your relationship with food more problematic and more scary and tense. It's like, remember that slide, don't eat sugar and starch, rule number 1? That's like 90% of getting you to where you want to go, right? So by overcomplicating it and making it so crazy and thinking that you have to involve all these moving parts, not only does it take the focus off of the most important thing, which is the food, it just adds all these layers of difficulty and expense and mental, what's the word? Stress is such an overused word, just mental burden, like extra tasks that aren't required. So just, keep it simple. We don't want the crazy overcomplication and the neurosis and the anxiety. We want the, yay, I get to eat steak and I get to eat blue cheese and I get to eat fatty pork chops and I get to eat Brussels sprouts and roasted with bacon fat, and that's what we want. So with that in mind, keep it simple. Get back to the basics. If you've been doing keto and you're doing great and like none of this presentation applies to you, then go get a coffee or something, go take a break. But like if you've been struggling really bad and you do feel very overwhelmed by the mixed messages and the complications, I'm giving you permission now, not that you need my permission, but if you wanted it, get back to the basics, keep it simple. If you do nothing else but follow rule 1, no sugar or starch, you are already miles ahead of somebody that is not doing that, and miles ahead of where you would be if you weren't doing that. Is that alone going to get you 100% to where you want to be? Maybe, maybe not, depending on your individual situation, your weight situation, your medical situation. Maybe it won't get you all the way, but it's going to get you pretty far. Again, that is the most important part of this whole thing, is just keeping your carbs low. If you're having trouble even doing that, focus on doing that and only that. Worry about nothing else. If you want to eat tuna canned in soybean oil, you eat tuna canned in soybean oil. If you want to use regular mayonnaise because you can't afford $10 a jar for something fancy, use regular mayonnaise. If you want to get a rotisserie chicken from your local supermarket, do it. Like, just master the one thing. And then when you've got that under your belt, you try to add in some bells and whistles. So that being said, there are some people who I think will do their best being very, very strict with the diet. And when I say being very, very strict, I mean really, really keeping that carbohydrate content very, very low. So let me explain this picture in case you have no idea what you're looking at right now. This is a tunnel. It's a tunnel, but it is a tunnel in an aquarium because I didn't want to. I was looking for stock images of tunnels, and I didn't want to put some kind of dark, dank, gray, gloomy tunnel, and that's what most of the pictures were. But I was like, ooh, this happy tunnel, because this is a tunnel we want to be in. This is a good tunnel. We don't feel trapped and like it's all dark in here. I have the tunnel because being strict for many people with keto makes it easier to stick to, and I'll tell you why. If you have been messing around with net carbs and eating, the almond flour cookie and the coconut flour brownie and the erythritol ice cream and all this stuff, some people can eat all that stuff and do totally fine. They get the results they want. If those things have been a regular part of your diet and you're not doing so well, you're not really getting where you want to go, it is actually easier for some people to eliminate that kind of stuff entirely and just stick to like meat and vegetables and maybe, nuts and seeds if you don't overdo them. And when I use the word meat, I mean any animal protein. I don't just mean red meat. So it could be poultry, pork, seafood, bison, game, meat, whatever. So, stick to the real basics, because there's a lot of people who, when we do talk about that magical keto pixie dust, some people don't experience that unless they are actually in the state of ketosis. And some people can get there eating those keto treats and with all those sugar alcohols and the nut flours and all that. Some people can't. Some people won't be in a deep enough state of ketosis unless they really are strict with that stuff. And when they are in that deeper state of ketosis, that's when the appetite suppression kicks in and you can start going many, many hours between meals. That's when the sugar cravings start to go away, because you can't. So Dr. Eric Westman and I wrote a book together called End Your Carb Confusion, and we talk about the sugar beast. You can't get cravings to go away by satisfying them. When the sugar beast asks to be fed and you feed it, someone said, oh, you're craving cake. Well, just get it out of your system. Have the cake and get it out of your system. No, you don't get the craving out of your system. It keeps coming back because you keep feeding that beast. The way to starve that sweet craving beast is to starve it, is to stop feeding it. When you stop feeding it, eventually it stops coming back asking to be fed. So don't trade a sugar addiction for a monk fruit addiction or an erythritol addiction. And again, this is always an individual thing. If you're eating that stuff and you are happy with how things are going for you, keep doing what you're doing. You know that saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it is broke, if you're not happy with how things are going, hunker down and get strict, because also I said the sugar cravings tend to go away. That's when the appetite suppression kicks in. For many people, that is when the mental clarity kind of kicks up. It is for some people, the mood gets better. I know I made jokes about that earlier, but there are people who do experience these benefits of keto, but they won't experience them unless they're really in a good state of ketosis. And if you follow my work elsewhere, like my own YouTube channel or anything, I very often emphasize that not everybody needs to be in ketosis to feel their best, because they don't. You might be somebody who does. So if you haven't had that happy dust sprinkled on you, you might be one of the people that will feel that when you really dial the diet in. And I know it sounds paradoxical, but there's a French paradox too. It sounds paradoxical that actually being stricter with your diet is easier, but it really is, because if your appetite is lower and the sugar cravings are gone, Much easier to actually stick to this. So stay to your tunnel, stay to your strict keto tunnel. You don't need to be looking at what anyone else is doing, because maybe for your friend or your husband or your coworker or that person over there, they can have the keto brownies and they can have the ice cream, but you can't. Is it fair? No. Do some of us just have to deal with that? Yeah. So you have to be like a horse, keep the blinders on. You don't need to look at what anybody else is doing, because what they are doing may not be relevant at all to you and what you need to do to get success. What else? Oh, we have to banish the word only from our vocabulary with regard to keto. Stop saying only. I only lost 2 pounds. I only lost a pound. I lost 2 pounds. It's the same words, just minus only. I lost 2 pounds. I only lost 2 pounds. It's an entirely different feeling. Celebrate the teeny tiny victories. Give yourself credit for the momentum. I only stuck to keto for 2 days. I only made it 4 days before I ate that pie. I only made it till Friday before I had the whatever. Or, oh my gosh, I made it 3 days. I almost made it the whole week. I just went 4 days without having any sugar or starch, and I've never done that before in my life. I just went 4 whole days. How much better, how much more life affirming does that sound than I only went 4 days? Okay, you only went 4 days. Try again next week. Maybe you'll make it 5 or 6. And the week after that, it'll be the whole week. And then it'll be 2 weeks. And then it'll be 3 years before you know it. Those of you that are parents out there, if you have a little toddler who's learning to walk, they walk a few steps and they fall. They walk a few steps and they fall. When they walk a few steps and fall, you don't kind of look over from the cat, oh, you only walked 3 steps and then you fell flat on your face, loser. You'll never walk. You might as well just you might as well crawl your whole life. No, oh my goodness, you walked 3 steps. Oh, you walked 3 steps. It's such a huge celebration. That's something we lose as adults, I think, is celebrating any little thing that could be a very big deal if we allow it to be a big deal for ourselves, right? How little kids, even when they're learning to stand, they don't just stand up. They grab onto a table or a couch or something. You don't say, oh, well, you only stood because you were holding onto that couch. Oh my God, Billy pulled him up. He pulled himself up on the couch. Give yourself some grace. Stop saying only. There's no such thing as only. You only lost a pound. You lost a pound. Great. All right. Probably the most important thing in this whole talk. Is keto making you crazy? Are you hearing mixed messages and crazy? This person says you can't have the oil. This person says you can. This person says chicken is killing you, but this person says chicken is 0 carb. I have a phrase that I call the information vacation. If keto is making you crazy, take an information vacation. And what the information vacation means is you just stay in your tunnel, you put the blinders on, and you put the earplugs in, and you just keep on trucking with the food that you know works for you. You can just basically drown out all of the keto noise. Take even like 2 days. I would say take a full week. But if you are addicted to keto social media, and I know some of you are, it's okay to walk away for a little bit. Take 2 days off, 48 hours. Take a keto social media fast. How about that? Forget the food fasting for a minute and do a keto social media fast. Take a few days, no blogs, no podcasts, no websites, no videos, nothing. Or, find another topic. If you want to watch videos about something else, whatever other hobby you've been neglecting for the past however many months or years because you've fallen down all the keto rabbit holes. Go find another, topic, another subject, hobby rabbit hole to fall down for a few days, because it's okay. You already know what to do. You know what to eat, you know what not to eat. Nothing you learn in the next day or two is going to like shake your world so radically that it's going to fundamentally alter what you do. So if you take a few days off, good thing it's the internet and you can watch the video next week, or you can download the podcast and listen to it some other time. Um, I think we do this to ourselves sometimes when we invite all of this information in. You don't have to. You're allowed to put up the wall and have faith, have confidence in the plan that you're following. Do it for a month or two. If you don't like it, then try a different plan. But I see a lot of people trying to cobble together bits and pieces from too many different plans, and then nothing works. And that's not to say that that never works. I mean, I think it is actually beneficial to learn and to experiment, but you have to stick with one thing long enough to give it time to work. You can't keep changing up, listening to every person's individual plan. So I really highly recommend the information vacation if you feel totally overwhelmed. And while you take that information vacation, that's the perfect time to, again, hunker down, just focus on the food. Don't worry about all the other stuff. Just keep your carbs low. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself time. This stuff is not easy. A lot of the people, you might think people have it all figured out. Remember, you only see what they're letting you see. You only see what they're posting. None of us sees what happens when the phone is away and cameras are off. We see what is curated on social media. Be kind to yourself. That slide with all the, why can't I just figure this out? What's wrong with me? When will I get this together? Be kind to yourself. That negativity is not going to help matters. Forgive yourself. Every time you eat off plan, or every time you eat more than you intended to, you know what you have to do right away? You have to forgive yourself. You have to learn from it, learn from the experience, analyze, okay, what just happened in this situation? Why did I do something that I was definitely not intending to do? Learn from it, but don't wallow in it. Don't drown in the misery. And then talk to yourself like you're someone you care about. I once heard somebody say, and I don't remember who it is, so I can't give them credit. It was something like, be careful what you say to yourself. You might be listening. You cannot hate yourself well. There's no strategy on earth under which you can hate yourself so much that you will get yourself to change. You cannot hate yourself so much that you will stick to keto and lose weight. You cannot hate yourself and belittle yourself and berate yourself enough to stick to any way of eating. What you can do is appreciate that maybe you're not such an awful person, and maybe you're worth sticking to keto. Maybe you're worth sticking to whatever diet you're doing, even if it's not keto. You're worth eating the right foods, and you're worth avoiding the not so right foods. And if you do mess up, if you do eat off plan or something happens, you're still worth it. So if I hope some of this has resonated. I hope that somebody out there needed to hear this, because we don't talk about it enough. If you are still struggling, whether you're brand new to keto and you're kind of having a bumpy road adjusting, or if you've been doing this forever and you're still every couple of weeks, every couple of months, there's a blip on the radar, you're not the only one. So not alone. We're in this together. Let's start talking about it. I really would like for us to open this conversation, and for people to not be ashamed and not feel scared to admit publicly that they're struggling or they're having a hard time, because I can guarantee you that when one person starts talking about it, there's going to be a couple thousand that say, oh, me too. I thought I was the only one. I was afraid to be honest because everyone else has this perfect. We don't have it perfect. So I hope that was helpful to you in some way. And thank you for watching. And thank you to the Bear family and to the Keto Chow team for inviting me.
Hey, thank you so much, Amy, for that wonderful presentation. That was absolutely fantastic. I really like your whole keto without the crazy. Um, your pragmatic approach is just, we love it. Actually, for the first time I saw you talk, which was at KetoCon, I guess you had met Miriam. And oh, my watch is talking to me. You had met Miriam, and so when we saw you at KetoCon, Miriam's like, "Amy, come sit by us." And then like you went and spoke right after that. But I've just really enjoyed every presentation I've ever seen of yours. I think you're just fantastic. Now, one thing that wasn't in your presentation was number one, if you have any disclosures, and number two, where can people go to get more information from Amy Berger?
Right. So my disclosures are that I am the author of 3 books, so I do get royalties from books about ketogenic diets, and I am occasionally writing articles for the Keto Chow
Oh yeah,
blog.
that's
So
right.
that's and then where you can find me, my website is tuitnutrition.com, TUIT nutrition.com. My YouTube channel is the same name, Tuit Nutrition, and that is also my handle on Twitter.
Oh, that's right. You're on Twitter quite a bit, right?
That's my main social media. I do
Yeah.
have an Instagram account also to it nutrition, but if people go there, you'll see I hardly ever post because I'm too old. That's a young person thing. I really
Yeah.
don't even understand it that much. So Twitter's really my main home.
Well, that's where you get to hang out with Dave and Ivor and Professor Noakes and all those other people, right? Now, for those of you who don't understand the to it, can you just really quickly go into what that's all about? Like to it,
Yeah,
what does that
there's
mean?
on my website, there's a tab that says why to it and it explains. People think it's, oh, is that intuitive eating or I wish because that makes more sense,
That
but
would have
it
been a
really
better
comes
idea.
when I was brand new to all this and I was looking for a website name, every permutation I went for was already taken. I'm like, what am I going to call myself, you know? And I remembered that when I was a little kid, my mother had a wooden coin. It was like the size of a silver dollar. And on one side in big letters, it said TUIT. It was a round to it. And on the back, in much smaller print, it said something like, you're always saying, I'll do that when I get around to it. You're always putting things off until you get around to it. Well, here, now you have a round to it. Go do the thing. And so, when are you going to change your diet? When are you going to get serious about your health? Oh, I'll get to it. Well, I'll get to it. Now you have to it nutrition, which we should just pretend like it's
Yeah.
intuitive, but that's
Yes.
not actually where it came
That's
from.
a better story, right? By the way, your message about all of the have you ever done these things, and that's just I can say I've never eaten stuff out of the garbage, but I think everything else on that list I've done.
You're a better
So
person than I am. We do it I want to say everybody's done it, but not
yeah,
everybody has. Many of us have done many of those things. And,
yeah,
we live to tell the tale.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for more of the keto without the crazy, for just giving people some I guess some hope if the fairy dust hasn't struck them yet. And I really, really like the just because something is simple doesn't mean it's easy.
And that's true of diet and of like 800 other things in life,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay. Well, hey, you have a fantastic day, and thanks so much for
You
joining
too.
us.
Thanks so much. Take care.